Another episode of NextGEN Medium, continuing the Know the Soul Abilities series, where we take these soul abilities, there's so many of them, they're under different modes of the psychic, intuitive, mediumship, healing, who knows what else, and we break it down into these little break-offs of those soul abilities that you can look up on the internet, that you can check out videos on. So today we're going to dive into telepathy. We're also going to chat about brain chemicals that could heighten your telepathic skills. And the people who you could be the most receptive to telepathically. I've got tips for you to get yourself to that place, and how tapping into your biology by releasing brain chemicals could help you if you are looking to get into this soul ability. And that's this episode on NextGEN Medium, the podcast. Hey, I'm Sarah Nickerson. I'm a psychic medium intuitive. I started NextGEN Medium as a way to make people aware that, you know, this psychic medium intuitive stuff that I do? Well, you can do it too, and actually everybody can do it. That is my belief, because a couple years ago, I didn't know I could do this stuff, and then I started focusing on it, and then I realized I could. And now I do readings for people, I help people with their developments, and I'm trying to spread this awareness that you can do it too. And if you are on this journey of discovering these things for yourself, I want to help you get there. And I do that through this podcast, I do it through my blog at nextgenmedium.com, and I got a vlog too. And you can connect with me on all kinds of social media and everything, the Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. If, you know, you really want a well-rounded NextGEN Medium experience, I want to help people be aware that they can do this. And I want to help you get to that threshold where you experience this stuff for yourself and you start gaining interest in uncovering what you are capable of doing. And maybe you had no idea the scope of it until you came across this kind of stuff. So if I can help you with my truth, with my experience, then I've done my job. But welcome. And once again, we are looking into the Know the Soul Abilities series. At one point, I called it your Psychic Types series, but with time, I realized, you know what, psychic is one of the modes, and there's other modes, so I don't want to pinpoint it to just psychic. So we're talking soul abilities. That encompasses your intuition, your psychic, your mediumship, your healing. Those are the modes, and there's probably more modes out there. But those are the big ones. They're all ways that we take in our soul senses, and they're sort of a mode that we use to get there. Everyone has access to their soul abilities. Some people may be able to access more abilities than others. Maybe some people are more natural at it. I do think there's a nature-nurture thing in there too. But nonetheless, you can explore it and see what you got. And then off of those modes are things like telepathy. Now, telepathy is a way to read minds. We're also going to talk about ways that, brain chemicals, releasing certain brain chemicals, which you have the control of doing, might help with your telepathic abilities. So let's get started on this episode's focus on telepathy. What is telepathy? All right, talking about telepathy. It's one of those things we see in movies, maybe we see on TV shows. It's knowing information due to picking up someone else's thoughts. Let's give you some more definitions just to really get the grasp on this term. Cambridge Dictionary says the ability to know what is in someone else's mind or to communicate with someone mentally without using words or other physical signals. From the Society of Psychical Research, that's a weird word, paranormal passage of information from one person to another, where paranormal is phenomenon which is considered impossible according to the established scientific worldview. Oh, I like that. Established scientific worldview. This is what we think is reality. And then from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, communication from one mind to another by extrasensory means. Now, the way we're going to talk about telepathy is by no electronic means. That is telepathy via human-to-human transmission with no other tools, just two minds with ESP. And why am I even bringing this up? Because apparently telepathy, utilizing electronics, has happens. And I actually have a video in my blog for you to check out where they're explaining how one person in one part of the world was just thinking a thought, connected to all kinds of electrodes and stuff, and then this was transmitted electronically to another person in another part of the world with electrodes all wired up to their brain, who received the electronic message that was originally sent from some other place. And that has happened. So why couldn't that happen from human to human without electrodes? Well, you're going to find out, aren't you? But between you and me, science is kind of getting grossly entangled in this, and it makes me kind of uncomfortable. Another video for you to check out from, oh boy, I'm going to really butcher this guy's name, Michio Kaku. He's a scientist. You'll see his face, and you'll be like, oh, that guy. This video that I got is from Big Think. It's called Telepathy is Easier Than You Think. Telepathy, mind to mind. I would characterize this as intuitive, using the intuitive mode. If you are around somebody, if you're thinking of somebody, you're connecting with their energy, and you're able to receive what's going on in their brain. You can do that through emotions. You can do that through their physical being, their pain, their state. Then I would say that this is an intuitive mode that you'd be using. And what are you using with this telepathy? What soul senses? And when I think about telepathy, I traditionally think of it as someone hearing someone else's thoughts. So I would say that this goes with the clairaudient soul sense. However, from my own experience, I attribute claircognizance or clear knowing to my telepathic experiences. Additionally, I would also put my clairvoyance in there as well. I have had an experience where I think I saw what someone else was looking at, and this person was right in front of me looking at a card, and I had a vision of looking at that same card. So I think that's telepathy, but years into this, I'm still trying to figure it out. So yeah, I don't think there's any dominant soul ability for this in order to attribute a mind reading experience as a definitive telepathic experience. But from my experience, telepathy tends to be a flash of ESP. So I compare this quick, small bit of information to my mediumship experiences, communicating with discarnate spirits, which can take an hour to really dive into and extract stories and messaging. A longer lasting, deeper process. But I really do think if you are taking on someone else's thoughts, then this could be ringing true with your intuition. That's what I think. But then again, when it comes to having definitive things in this soul world, it can be really difficult. All right, so I kind of touched upon, from my experience. Well, let's talk about my experience with telepathy. Having sat down and really get to know the terms and scope of telepathy during the research of creating this episode has made me aware of telepathic experiences that I may have had. I have never focused directly on telepathy for a long stretch of time, and I think that if I were to really focus on this skill for at least a couple of weeks, maybe months, I would have a clearer understanding of how I am capable of telepathic sensing. But I just want to expose this stuff to you so you know what's out there. But right now, having taken the time to understand telepathy more formally, taking a look at definitions and some videos, I would say I have small glimpses of it that appear during conversations when I have a knowing of what will arise during the conversation, specifically when the topic is about a person. The thing is I would have to know to confirm. I would have to know that the person that I'm standing across from or what's going on with the conversation, I would have to know that someone was already thinking it before it popped up in my head and then having it appear in the conversation. Because if I'm thinking about something as a soul ability of receiving messaging and it comes up later in the conversation, it could also be psychic that I could be experiencing premonition. So having telepathy, you really have to have a full understanding of the situation and maybe really hone down when you're doing your experimentation of what the rules are if you're working with somebody else so that you aren't picking up premonition stuff and knowing that, okay, that was telepathy. So you might have to set some ground rules if you want to experiment with this and try it with other people. I will have a knowing that flashes in my head of who a conversation may be about that could be contributed to picking up on what other person I'm conversing with, what they may want to talk about. So I could be taking in information that is going on in their head that maybe they're having a self-conversation about inside their head. But it could be mixed with premonition. It really depends on what the facts are. So additionally, I do think about one example of ESP that I had with my daughter that I have referenced a few times throughout, these podcast episodes and my blog stuff and videos. I played a game of headbands with my daughter Lucy a few years ago, and I recall seeing, so in this game, I can explain the game. There are various cards, and these cards have an object on them, like a bike or the sun. This is for kids. It's a kid's game. So you put this plastic headband thing on your head, kind of like a crown, like it sits above your eyebrow. Then one person puts a card in the headband. Well, I guess I could put the card in my headband, but I don't know what is on the card. I have to guess the thing that's on the card. So I haven't seen it. I put it on my headband. The person across from me needs to give me some clues, or I ask questions or something like that. And so in this example of ESP, I actually remember closing my eyes for a second and seeing a visual. What I was taking in was a tree. I think this is before I even started asking questions to her. As soon as I got that visual, I looked at her and I said, "It's a tree." And she was like, "It is a tree." Now, here's the catch. Here's the catch to this experience. When I looked at the card for myself, the tree that appeared in my mind was not the tree that was on the card. So what was happening there? Was there information being sent to her that was being interpreted in my head so that I would say tree? Because it wasn't the exact same image. I wasn't looking at the image like what she was seeing physically with her own eyes. So was I taking an imagery that she was imagining? That could be considered telepathy. Was it a way of getting information some other way? I don't know. But that's the experience I had. I saw the image, I said tree, and I was right. Boom. I won that game, by the way. I never let my kids win games without earning that win. I am the worst mother that way. But anyway, so that's probably one of my closer examples of something related to telepathy that I have experienced. So I could attribute this headbands experience as telepathy, but where it wasn't the exact image, I'm still keeping this one inconclusive for now. Do I have telepathy? Do I hear conversation? Sometimes. Is it my premonition skill popping in, which is a whole different soul ability? I don't know. Still got to figure this one out. Now, with all these soul abilities that we're talking about in this series, I do have some ways to develop your skills, and we can define it to these telepathic skills. Because anything with soul abilities is going to require understanding and experience in the following. Meditation. I'm always going to talk about meditation because meditation gets you in a place where you can focus on what's going on with your mental senses. It builds your baseline of what your normal is, and it helps you discern between what's mine, what's my normal state, versus what's incoming that's abnormal to this place. And what's abnormal is messaging. That's the information that's coming in from somewhere else. And being in a meditative place, it's a place we know. It's a place that's quite common in understanding in our society. So I direct you to meditation. You can connect to your own physical, mental, and spiritual self right there in that meditation place in order to compare your experienced external energy messages to this meditative baseline place. But practicing meditation allows you to explore the psychic soul worlds and get to know yourself. What does it feel like to be in your body? Well, you'll find out in that meditative place where you are focused on just you, your brain, your thoughts, your physical being. There. This is your journey. This is how you lead the way. If you need help with that, I got some guided meditations for you. You can check out at nextgenmedium.com. In my vlog, very specifically, I have a white light meditation for the developing psychic or medium or whatever. I like to be general with these terms because that's how people find it. I like to use the word psychic a lot because people are searching for that word. And if I can bring them in, then I can tell them it's not just psychic. There's intuition and mediumship and healing. And also an energy protection meditation. That's a guided meditation where I'm talking and I'm telling you what to visualize. Practicing this stuff allows you to tap in to these places that receive messaging, that show your messaging, okay? Next up is knowing your clairs. I have gone through multiple experiences where I'm experimenting and I'm writing down what's happening. And if I didn't have a clairs list to work off of, I don't know if I'd be able to define things like I can. Like I said, definitions are really hard in this world, but because you just are uncovering more and more and more. And when you define something, something comes along to change that definition. I promise you that will happen. It might even build a little bit of crisis in this world you're trying to understand. But if you're not familiar with clairs, then you need to be able to identify how you receive with your psychic senses, your soul senses. It is important to get to know them so you can get a clearer picture of the tools that you're working with. I have a huge list for you on my blog at nextgenmedium.com. And you can just fish through the list, read through the definitions, see, have I experienced this? Maybe you could even do sort of a chart. Where am I at right now with my clairs? Now, don't think that this clair list is going to be the end-all be-all of your soul experience stuff, because it can grow and it can change. It can ebb and flow as to what your strengths are, what you can get better at. So right now, where am I at with my clairs? Go through the definitions, make a column of, all right, this is definitely something I got, to this is plausible, I might have this, to I have no idea, I have no connection with this definition, I don't get it. What you might find is you have defined yourself as having this particular clair when actually maybe it's a different one, but you need more experience to define it for yourself as part of your toolbox. So go to my blog, nextgenmedium.com, and check out my clairs list. I also had a previous episode about it, so if you're the listener type, then go back through that. And now some exercise tips for learning telepathy. Of course, you need to keep an open mind. You need to have the possibility that this is even a thing before you even traipse in there and start exploring. Because if you've already determined that this isn't a thing, then everything's going to work against you to know the truth. So keep an open mind, be open to possibility, and you know what? Go in pretending I'm going to witness something and it's going to change my world, because you know what? It could. Also, meditation. We already talked about that. Just building that baseline, getting yourself comfortable with what's normal versus what's not normal when you start receiving that messaging. Now, when the messaging's coming through, visually, maybe you're hearing something, maybe you smell something, maybe you just know something. Just observe it. That's all I want you to do. Watch it come and watch it go. Being able to observe is a way of taking in information without judgment and without dismissing it. Because that's the ego getting in there, judging and dismissing. That is not what you do here. What you do here is you just watch it come and you watch it go. Next up is documenting your experiences. Every time you do a meditation, what comes in? How did it come in? What information was it? With that, you can be able to define and discern your clair abilities. Also, what soul abilities may be yours. It takes some time to really feel comfortable with saying, okay, I'm a psychic. Okay, I have intuition, because you need to prove it multiple times to yourself to feel like, all right, I got this, I can tap into it, and this is a place that I can depend on to get information. And documentation is sort of that evidence that you need to see. Because what you might find is you might feel like, oh, I don't know, I'm still on the border of, should I accept this, or is this my imagination? And then once you start seeing the evidence piling up, you're kind of like, wow, all right, that's a lot of experiences. And then after a while, you have to kind of choose, all right, am I going to accept this, or should I just go do something else? Because if you can't accept it, then you're not going to be very good at messaging if you can't be honest and truthful with yourself. So that's for you to decide. And lastly, where's your ego coming into play? Are you dismissing? Are you judging? Are you not even accepting that this stuff is for real? Then your ego is getting caught up in what's going on, and it needs to beat it. It needs to get lost. Ego has no place here. If you need to figure out, okay, what catches me with my ego? This is when you got to be able to disconnect your ego from yourself. This is when you take the ego aside and it becomes an object and not personal. Because very often we have the ego as a personal thing. Now, you need to separate it, and you need to look at it as, what is this doing to impede what I want to do? And this could be like a big life thing that you figure out here. But if you need help, go to my blog at nextgenmedium.com, and I've got a whole outline of ways that ego get in the way and how you can identify it in your process. I've actually taken a lot of examples of ways that I have found my ego creeping in. So know that this list is like my own personal stuff. So know that I am right there with you. If you're going to be looking at this list and going, oh crap, that's me. Oh crap, that's me too. I feel terrible about myself. Don't, because it's all crap we got to deal with. We got to be honest about it, and we got to deal with it. And that will make you a better messenger. All right, the last thing we're going to dive into is taking your telepathy to the next level and using your own biology to tap into this. I found a really cool article from Psychology Today written by Srini Pillai, who's a doctor. And this is from April 2018. It's called The Biology of Telepathy. It talks about the hints that biology may play a role in ESP. In part, telepathic communication being possible through the release of those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. So how do you get these chemicals going in your brain? There are lots of ways you can do it, and I found another article written by Erica Juleson, who is a registered dietitian. She's got all kinds of letters after her name, MS, RDN, CLT. And this is from healthline.com. And the article is called 10 Best Ways to Increase Dopamine Levels Naturally. And this is from May 10th, 2018. And she recommends eating a protein-rich diet, exercising, getting your sleep pattern set, having a usual time when you get up and go to sleep, listening to music, also taking a multivitamin, and my favorite one, sitting in the sun. I must have been a cat in my last life, because this is something I will just sit and do. Nothing else. I'll just sit in the sun. And I have more explanation about this list and links to the resources on my website, nextgenmedium.com, and the particular blog post that I've dedicated to today's episode, all about knowing the soul abilities, telepathy. The interesting thing about this list is it also goes for serotonin levels too. So get some sun, maybe get your favorite tunes going, sit in the sun, and go to bed at a decent time, will you? That does it for this episode of Next Gen Medium, the podcast looking into telepathy with the Know the Soul Abilities series. Check out my blog post about this at nextgenmedium.com in the blog section. It's called Know the Soul Abilities Telepathy. I've got tons of resources for you on the web, including social media resources, Facebook groups, Reddit communities, videos, really cool videos on my website as well. And one organization for you to check out if you're into this, International Academy of Consciousness. And they got 3 easy steps for learning telepathy. I've got my sources listed as well, so if there's anything that piques your interest, I got a link for that. Check that out at nextgenmedium.com/blog. And while you're there, you can sign up for a consult session where we dive into your development with a special development session just for you. So we can talk about your experiences and see how you can develop, maybe address some issues, and I can help shed a little light on what might be going on and what could help you out. We could also do a reading in there as well. Everybody loves readings. I don't care who you are. So look through my calendar, find a date that works for you, and go ahead and get that scheduled. We'll do a Zoom call, and it'll be lots of fun. Check out the blog, vlog, and my other podcast episodes at nextgenmedium.com. You can also add your name to get emails about upcoming NextGen Medium stuff on my website, nextgenmedium.com, where you'll get stuff about educational opportunities, contests for free readings, and a whole lot more. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and Pinterest. And until next time, have a pleasant rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Be safe, and I'll chat with you later. See ya.